Hey, welcome back to a new episode of The Console. This is the week of November 20th through November 26th, and this was kind of a short week because it was Thanksgiving this past week, so there wasn't that many big, huge, flashy, exciting things to talk about, but there were still a few things that I think you should know about, so let me tell you about it right now. This past week, Mozilla published a blog post titled Enabling the Social 3D Web. And what's interesting about this post is Mozilla's declaration about how they're going to now focus some time, resources, and people into providing basic primitive tools that individual developers can use to provide a social 3D web experience. Right now, if you want to provide a social 3D web experience, you have to build a lot of these things yourself. They don't actually exist out in the ecosystem. Mozilla has now formed a team to tackle this issue. So this is kind of cool. This is still very early stages. They do have a note that they have a Slack channel that you can join to participate in if you want to. And there's also already many Git repos on their GitHub pages that you can actually jump in and start seeing some of these early software in development. This is exciting. Mozilla has always been a very big participant in open source software, and seeing them jump 2 feet first or into the deep end or whatever the expression is into mixed reality, AR, VR, and all those stuff is very exciting. And I'm glad to see them just tackle this to make sure that the mixed reality space of the AR and VR is one that is still open and free in the web, which is what Mozilla is all about. Do you use Semver? Do you know what Semver is? Semver is like, major, minor patch. When you have some software that you're writing, you are publishing up a new version, you want to tell everyone that's using your software, hey, this is a major version, like I broke some things, like if you're going from 2.0 to 3.0, beware. This is not always the most clear naming convention to people. People get a little bit confused what major, what minor, what patch could actually mean. And there's an interesting pull request that was open, not pull request, an issue that was opened up this past week on the Semver GitHub page about potentially renaming major, minor patch to breaking feature fix as an effort to be a little bit more clear about what each of those numbers designate when changing. It definitely sparked an interesting thread of conversation. I think it makes sense. It's definitely much more clearer to the end user what those numbers signify. You never want to have to go from a 1.1.0 to 1.2.0 to find that all of your existing APIs break. That is just the worst time ever. So I think that I would like to see this happen. I think there's definitely more subtleties to unearth in this discussion. But for now, it's very good to see Semver itself trying to have a new either major or breaking change added to itself. A big blog post was published this past week called The Cost of JavaScript, which is a very long post by Adi Osmani, a Google developer advocate, and he goes very in-depth talking about how you can optimize your JavaScript to make for the best experience on a mobile platform. And it's a very in-depth blog post, covers a lot of strategies to combat performance on a mobile device, but also ways to investigate how performance might be suffering. One thing that I found very interesting in the blog post was him discussing how the byte cost of an image is not the same byte cost of JavaScript, because sure, you might download 170 bytes, but after that, the time and cost to de-encode an image is a fraction of the less of time as it is for decoding, parsing, compiling, and executing JavaScript code. So again, it's very interesting. If you are concerned about performance, this is definitely a good blog post to be reading about, talking about parsing and compile, talking about execution time, talking about strategies to improve this as well. Just a very in-depth article that will definitely make your mobile experience a lot better as a developer. And last but not least, because it was Thanksgiving this past week, I've always been very curious why the Friday, Saturday have been called Black Friday. Like, where did this term come from? Why was it called that way? I actually found an article talking about why this came to be. It was actually because in Philadelphia back in the day when there was a big shopping surge after Thanksgiving, the traffic cops started jokingly referring to those days as Black Friday and Black Saturday because of all of the traffic jams that would occur after that. It was a way of actually being afraid of those days because of all the extra work and headache and just annoyance that they would have to deal with every day. As things tend to do, it kind of caught on the press where, reporters would talk about Black Friday being a very huge shopping event, but of course then the people that were in the stores weren't really ecstatic about that term because it's not usually one to designate a positive experience. They tried to rebrand it as Big Friday, but that did not really stick on. And they also tried to change the meaning how Black Friday means that's when stores go into the black, but it definitely seems from these articles, if you want to go into a little bit more depth about what that means, Black Friday was just because traffic was quite the headache due to all the rush of people trying to get their stuff after Thanksgiving. Whatever. I didn't buy anything this year. Did you buy anything this year? I already have most of the things I need. I have a new microphone. That was my big expense, but that was before Black Friday happened. Okay, that was it. That was kind of a short episode. Not that much happened this past week, but hopefully you did learn something new that you didn't learn already. Please do subscribe down below if you don't already, and do follow along in Twitter if you want to catch more frequent updates. That is it for this week, and I will catch you next week when we are... No, it's still November, so let's not force it. No, it'll be December next week. Oh man, year's almost over. What's going to happen next year? Who can tell? 2018 is coming at us hot.